Okay, Ann, I think I'm ready to go here. We're trying a little bit different setup so that I can actually see what I'm doing when I turn this and get it going, to make sure that I'm painting so that you can still see it, since I am left-handed. So you might see my hand go back and forth across the screen. I'm not sure, but I'm going to try my very best to keep you in the picture all the time this time. So we've gone in here and sanded the piece down, and I wanted to show you what I did with mine. To keep this S-flow going, I put this little spray here, which are flowers that have begun to open, or they could be nearly spent. And that's not going to work for me doing that. But anyway, I have this spray of flowers here that are partially open, not all the way. I added that, and then I went right back up here, and this is where I added a little bit more blue, and then pulled out that one flower there. So what I'm going to do now is go back in, and anywhere like right in here where I added this flower, I want to do the same thing that we had done before and bring my blue paint around this flower, and then I want to come in here excuse me, and pull a little bit of paint in around these other petals so that stands out a little bit. I want to take a look at my design also and see if I'm happy with my other flowers, and I truly believe right here where I've tucked this one under that I can make this a little bit darker and make that flower stand out a little bit. I also see where I tried to reshape this petal, so I'm going to come in here. The petal was way down in here, and I put some color over it to shape it here. So what I want to do, and I'm going to swirl around here, hope I'm not making you dizzy either, and I want to come in here and add a little more blue to make sure I have that good and shaped up. That's pretty much. Now I added those up there. I forgot about that because I did this later. Let me come down here. I'm going to shape that a little bit, and then I'm going to come back around, and these are some of the flowers that I added last week. So I'm going to do the same thing and get my paint around the petals and set the flowers up and bury them partway underneath. Now I want to show you something here with this one. It's pretty much out there, see, by itself. So to make it go further into the background, I want to come in here. Let me get it around here. I want to come in here, and I'm going to bring some of this paint right over that flower for right now. And I will come back in around these buds and put a little more paint in here just to get that. Then I'm going to come into this one. I think I have the wrong brush, and put some paint around here. And again, I want this to come into the background, so I am going to come out here with some of this paint, and I'm going to put it around there, but I'm also going to bring some over this flower and over this flower, and then I want to get some paint down into these buds and set that one petal up. I can leave this petal here like this, kind of out there, but I don't think that would be too pleasing. I'm going to put some color on the petal. I'm going to put some color on this petal here so it's not so stark and white. And then before I do any filtering, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to take a look and see if there's anything else I need to do. These petals right here might be a little too stark, so I'll put a little bit of blue on there. See how it kind of buries that back in there? I actually can come in and add just a little more of the blue down here. But overall, what I'm trying to achieve here is getting my paint all set up around the flowers. I forgot to do something. I need to get in here and do something with these buds. So I'm going to come in and put a little paint down there in the V's where they come together, down in here where they're buried underneath this leaf, and I really want it just a bit darker than that, and separate those some and really shape them a little bit more. I have a really big problem when I am trying to attach something like this to a stem. You have the stem here, even with leaves. I tend to get my leaves down here and butted right up against that, where it would look more pleasing if I would come in like this, especially with these buds, and come down like this and leave some space there. It's just something that I have trouble overcoming, but one of these days I might do that when I'm old and gray. So here's, and these buds get littler as they grow out here, and I'm going to put some of this paint out here. And the first thing I'm going to do with this is see if I can't filter this paint and what I need to do with this. So let's do that. I'll get some of this filtered. And I'm actually going to put some paint, or at least try to bring some of this paint up and over these buds and pull the buds back out of the paint. I think I'm going to have to do it this way so you can still see. See, here's this little bud out here, and I want to get some paint around it so that you can see it, but I still want it like it's in the distance. This could actually be a shadow grouping. So I'm pretty smeary right now. I think part of that's because I'm trying to keep my hand away from the painting so you can see what's going on. But I think you get the drift. And I'll pull this out so that I have some nice background color in here. But yet I'm working with those flowers and making them stand out a little bit. But then I want to come back, and I'm going to have just a little corner load of blue in my brush, and I want to try to bring these flowers out a little bit. I'm not doing a very good job, but get some of that color, bring back some of their shape, make it so that I don't have a ring around the flower, which I'm getting in a couple places. We'll get that taken care of. But I'm fluffing some of that paint out. And then I'm going to blot my brush and try to just feather some of this out again. And it's all the way out there. I want to get that wiped out. But do you see what I'm doing here? I'll come around here on the bottom. And I wanted to bring some of that blue around here so that it doesn't look like it's just a blue streak down in through here. I wanted some of that blue there. So I think now what I'll do is probably take my cleaning tool and come in here and wipe some of those tips off. Just make like a little C-stroke around them so that you can see the edges of those flowers. See how I could do this so you can see again. And just wipe out those edges. Nice sinus weather. And then I want to come back in here, and I have just a little bit of oil on my brush, and I want to smooth those. I don't want it to look like that's what I did. That looks like a piece of cotton sticking up there from the cotton fields. But I just pull this out. And I'm happy with that. I do want to do something to bring our eyes back through this, but we're going to get to that in a minute. So then I'm going to come back around, and I'm going to fluff all this paint that I've put on and try to get some pattern, if you will, or design to it. You know, like right there I have too much. And believe it or not, I use a larger brush when I do this. I don't know if it's because of my feathering technique or what. It seems to help a lot better. Let me see. I think I'm still got you in the picture here. probably do better if I stay down here. Okay, so I have that. I left a little glob there. I wanted to get that out. I'd really like to get some of this out a little bit. And some of that might be in there from another firing. I can see a shadow in here. A lot of times I'll take and pat that out, because if you wipe it out, then it makes too much of a ring around the rosy, and maybe that's what you had done on particularly on your pink one, is wiped off some that you had pulled out so far. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to work around these, and I'm going to pull this paint out. And you can see I've pulled it over those flowers. Pull it down here. Another thing is, you don't necessarily want to have your background paint that you fluffed out end right here at the tip of this, so it's like a dividing line. So I probably would come in here and pick up a tad bit of blue and bring it around here. So it just all has to be is a hint of blue, but you don't want that little dividing line there. So I've pulled that out. I'm going to tap this right here and see if I can get this just a little bit better here. And I'm pretty happy with this, just the way it is. Even with this little bit of extra color up here, I don't think that makes much difference. I'm going to quickly go over these flowers because I see some streaks in them. Then I'm going to come back with my brush, because this is the second time we've painted these. It makes a nice little composition having these flowers here hidden so far back, and you really don't have to pull any of that out. But if you're going to leave those back, then you really have to leave this one back and put more paint on that. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'll come in and I'm going to put just a little bit more paint on my brush and come in and hide this, both of these, a little bit more. And I think while I'm at it, I would probably hide this guy a little bit more. You still see the edges of the petals, but I like the way that comes through there. And especially, this one is really pretty, and it turned out perfect, and I wouldn't do a thing to it, but sometimes I strive to get this. If you look really close, there's just a tiny bit of white on the edge of that petal, on the edge of this one here, and up in here. So it just shows just the tips of those petals, and that just makes it look so cool, like the sun's hitting it. So I'm going to do that a little bit, and then I'm going to take a step back and look at my design, and I think now what I'll do is maybe even hit these guys up just a little bit more and strive more for just seeing the edge of those petals also. And see, it looks like they are back in a shadow when I do this. So I do like that. So get your picture where you like it, so that there's not a whole lot of starkness, but not a whole lot of darkness either. And then take a look at it. Let's wipe out the centers before we go anywhere else. But I want to show you something more with the blue before we put any more paint in these centers. And quite honestly, I probably wouldn't put any more paint in the ones that we're leaving as buried, because you wouldn't see them, but I do need to get that paint off. Now what we want to look for is that line coming through our design, and see if we squint, can we see an S shape? I can see an S shape, but I'd benefit, and do this while you're watching it. Squint at my piece and see what you see. And as I'm squinting, I see some dark, I see there's light, there's a little bit of dark there, then I see the dark, and see how it's carrying you through, and you come through here, and then you come into this and this. So I need to get some dark to help carry it through a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is go back and corner load with some blue. And I want to come back around here and see what I can do to get just some little pieces of dark in there. And you can do that just by going into that V a little bit, and make sure you filter it out though. So you're starting up here with this little bit of color. I'm gonna pull that out a little bit more. And then you want to come through. We're going to help that with some dark in these leaves. Then I've helped this here. And then even though we weren't really touching this flower, we want to put a little more dark. I think we put a little bit of paint here, but get just a little bit of dark there. And what I'm doing, if you have the V here where those petals come together, I'm actually coming in and painting that V and then kind of smoothing it out so that it ends up being almost like a U, but you're smoothing. You're not trying to put paint all the way out that far. You want to get that dark against dark and light against light. And that's what we're trying to achieve here. Now, I do have a little bit of a ring around this petal, so I'm taking a different brush and I'm just smoothing that out, and that came from putting that little bit of extra paint in. I think you see where I'm going though. We can come down, come to this one, and we can put a little bit of blue here and bury this back just a little bit. I'm not coming all the way into here. And then I want to smooth this a little bit though. I don't want to leave it so splotchy. Now I just buried that flower back a little bit more. Nothing wrong with that. I do want to look at it though, right side up. We're going to look again at the whole composition and make sure that I don't have this too white out here or too dark. So we have that side. Before I go any further, I think I'll do the squint test again, and I want you to squint too and see we have dark. We could use a little dark here, which we're going to get with some leaves. We're coming dark through here, dark through here. This dark's going to bring us around, and we're going to bring it around and get some here. So what I want to do, see what side my brush just got loaded on. Come back in here and get some more paint. I'm going to come in here and I want some of that dark right in here. Again, making sure that I don't have a line, a distinct line. In doing so, I covered up that petal a little bit more. That's okay. Then I'm refilling my brush a lot, just because I just have it on the tip edge. I want a little bit of that coming across here. Trying to get that line out. And then I think I'm going to have dark here. So I think maybe a little of that dark right here between these flowers. And then the last place that I'm going to put any of the dark, I have the dark of the leaves to help me through, but I want some dark here. And because these are kind of wet again, I'm going to have to be very careful and get that down in there. And then I have to be careful when I come around these. And I also, I don't know if you could see, I have a little bit of a stem coming through here. And I'm going to help it a little bit with that stem too. Now the only thing that I see that I have to do is come and get this out. And I'll fluff that out. So I really don't care if we lose part of that. Alright, let me put it back upright again. And I think that's about as right as I can help you with there. Do the squint test and see if you can see it carrying all the way through. I think I have one little area needs help, And that's right in here. So I'm going to go back in here and see if I can't get a little darker, and that might mean putting this flower back a little bit further. And then I think what I'm going to do is add some of that dark right in here. See, I probably shouldn't have cleaned out my centers. And I think that'll do it. I do have some cleanup to do, but I think that'll do it. So let's both squint again. I still think that needs some dark. So I think what I'll try to do is come in here also. And put that around. Now let's take a look before. Oh yeah, much better. So I want to take my little brush and go back in here though, and this guy's really out of shape. I'm going to wipe him back just a little bit. And again, I don't mind having that little bit of white there. And then let me see what else needs to be done. I do have to get a little bit of oil here. And I'm going to smooth this out some so that it's not as stark white. And I'm actually going to introduce a little bit of the blue. Whoops, that was more than a little bit. A little bit of the blue into this flower here. And let me try it again. I think it looks pretty good. I think though, I might come in here, and I have very little blue on this brush, but I'm going to put some out here on the focal flower since we've buried them back. And I do still kind of like this out here because that's some sunshine shining on it. But I am going to, I've cleaned my brush out. I put just a dab of oil back in. And a little dab of oil back in is not going to work. We're going to go back to our turpentine. And that's fired on. But I'll get a little bit of this moved around a little bit. And I'm just kind of going back and forth, fluffing some of that paint out, smoothing it out a little bit. Like I said last week, if it didn't get cut out of my tape, when you're painting something small like this, I don't like texture in it, unless it's meant to be textured, but these little petals aren't meant to be textured. So I think that I feel pretty confident that I'm pulling my sight line through this painting. Now I'm going to go back and clean out these centers. And I pretty much save my centers for last, but you don't have to. You can do them whenever you want to do them as far as what we're going to paint into them. But what I want to do now is get into my green paint. And I want to redo these two leaves here. Those are ones that I added. Then I'm going to look and see if I can darken and help the design any with the other ones. So I use my lightest color, but I go into my darkest color. So I have a full load of the lightest color and a corner load of my darkest color. And this time, this leaf is underneath this one. I'm going to come into this guy first and lay down the color and get a good coat helping whatever of that nice dark color here. And then I'm going to put a little bit more of the dark on it and come back out here because he's laying underneath that other one. This is really a strong color. You have to be careful. I do know how it fires out, so I'm not too worried about it. But there's a little too much in there to come on out the rest of the way. So I just took and I blotted a little bit of it out and got some more oil and some more of my chartreuse in my brush, and I'm going to come through here and then get my little tail on here. Now a real forget-me-not leaf is long, and it's shaped more rounded down here at the end, but it's hard to make that look pleasing. Plus they're, you know, like humongous compared to the flowers. But like I said in my one email, I'm going to send you some pictures, that the ones that I have out in my flower bed, and show you. And then I do have a box that I painted that I did them the right way, and it was pretty cool, but I don't know that I would take the time to do it again. So then I'm going to come in here with those colors again, and I'm going to get my dark up against here because I need that help here, but I don't want to go all the way out here to the edge of of the flower, or of the leaf, because I want to show that there's that one underneath it. So I put that in, and then this is where I need the help. So I'm going to try to get a little heavier load there and put it in there. Now green is one of the colors that'll pop more than others. And I do see all you have to worry about is whether or not you have a buildup. That's what actually makes it pop. So I do see a buildup here, and I'm going to take that out of there in just a second here. I want a little more leaf out here. I think that looks nice. So all I'm going to do is come down through here and pull some of that, knocks down some of that ridge that I had, and then I'm going to come back in with just a tad more on my brush and try to lay it out again so that I get my design. And I'm okay with this now too. So now if you do the squint test again, you can see I have some dark color up there coming through. This leaf could stand a little bit more against that flower, but not a whole lot. I'm just going to get some of that dark color in here, and I'm going to put a little more of that dark color out here and bring it around so that you can tell that there really is a leaf there. I kind of lost my leaf, but that's where I put some more of that the blue in. And then I think that leaf was one that was added last week, but I'm not sure. He still looks like a little pale Indian, so I'm going to come back here and add some more of it. Get some of that dark. There. You can do that here too. And I'm happy down here. These two, this one's underneath this one. I didn't do a very good job of showing that. I'm going to try to this week. And then I'm going to deepen more into that corner and on this side of this. And that leaf was a little bit narrow in that one spot, so I'm going to bring that out. Now I need to come back, and I've lost the end of this one somehow. And that's probably a little too long, so I'm going to come in here. I'm not unhappy. While I still have the paint on my brush though, this is where I'm going to come in, and I'm just going to kind of dot in between, lay my brush down, I'm laying it so it's kind of flat, and I'm making these lines in here. I really want to come down between these petals, but I want to do like a broken line down through here for a stem. And I'm going to put just a little, no, I don't like that. That one's coming off. But just something to show the path. And I need to break this up some, so I'm going to take some of it out with something, a little teeny tiny brush, I think. Smooth that out a little bit. I think you get the idea. Basically, we're pretty much getting done here. Again, you can do the squint test again and see if you're coming through the design. I think it's coming through very well. If I have any wet paint, and I believe I have a little bit of wet paint here, I want to see if I can knock a couple of those buds back out. I'm going to try up here. I know there's some wet paint. I'm going to knock a few out. And then there's a little bit of wet paint here. I want to knock a couple of those back out. And then this would be the time to take a good look again at your sprays. And quite honestly, I see a big boo-boo and it's fired in. This spray should not have gone this direction, even though it's shorter. This one's going the same direction. I can try, but I don't think it's going to work, to bring this out this way, but it doesn't work. It looks like it's going in an S. So I'll take that off. But I can bring this one out more, and maybe it'll take away from that. And I can do that by adding just a few more dots. And see, I brought it over more than what I normally would, and I think that helps. Remember I said that a couple of yours were the same length, and mine were too, but I already put it in the kiln. I recognized it yesterday and intended to do something about it. These two are the same length. I should have cut one of these off, like in here. So what I'm going to do, this one's rather full, I'm going to bring this one, I'm going to put a couple more dots right here, and then I'm going to come down through here and bring it out more. I think that helps a little bit too. So I'm happy with this. The only thing left to do now is I do see right here I have kind of a line of paint, so I want to do something, oops, not with green, and that doesn't want to clean out. If you have trouble getting the all the turpentine out of your brush, you can purge it with some oil helps. But if you want the really quick and easy way, the next time you see Marcy Blattenberger or send her an email, get some of her brush cleaner. Yes, we're good friends, and yes, I am plugging for her, but you won't be unhappy. And I take and if I have a stubborn color, and your darker colors mostly are, I take and pour just a little bit out in a little dish that I have. This is a little butter pat dish, and I use that for my oil. And after I've cleaned it out, I'll pour just a little splash in there and rinse those pesky brushes out real good. So all I want to do now is finish the centers of the flowers. If you have something like red grape, pompadour, you could do violet of iron, but I like something that's got a little bit more red in it. Blood red's a good one. What I had on my palette right now was blood red. I am going to take a very small brush. I have a small one. This is a number 1. You can use like a liner brush or something like that, and have a little bit more oil in it than what you would to paint, but I don't want it sloppy and soupy. And do a full load of paint. You can actually do this with a corner of another brush, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this down, wiggle it around, and I'm going to pull it up, and it's going to make a dot, but it's not going to be a perfect dot. And that's exactly what I'm achieving, what I'm trying to achieve. And so what I'm going to do is start here in this flower, and I'm going to lay that down and make that little dot. And I'm going to do probably all this side here with that one little load of paint. And you know, we could do a little of that here too. But then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put those dots in. I don't want them perfect. And if you were, I mean, they look pretty perfect, but if you were to use a magnifying glass, or if you, I'll do a still of this for you too and send it to you separately. If you were to look at them, they are by no means are they perfect. And want a little one here, and I don't want any of them way too much darker than the others. So we've done that. And then when you look down into the center of a forget-me-not, they have this little yellow or white. I'm really not sure what it is. I'm so blind. I wear Coke bottom bottle glasses and I can't really see them real well. But it appears like there's little dots around the centers of the flowers, and I don't know if they're white or yellow or what color they are. I was taught to do these dots that I'm going to do in black. I think they're too harsh in black. I have taken before a gray and mixed a little black in it, and that looks fine. Something that I started because I didn't have any of those colors painted or mixed, and I was at the end, is using purple. This is, I think this is elderberry I have on my brush. This is what it looks like if I were to paint it out. I've loaded my brush the same way that I told you to load for the centers. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to dot, dot, dot at the ends of where the petals meet. There's a little dot. There's a little dot. I'm laying it down and I'm pulling it up. I don't care if it's perfect. Over here, you don't have to do them all the way around. You might just do 3. See what it looks like. Again, over here, you only see 3 petals. You can imagine that there's others down there. You're going to get in the way of that petal, but just put down some dots. And I've got a little too much oil going on here. This paint's been mixed for a while, and it's a little loose to begin with. Some of the colors do tend to loosen up. But see how I don't have them? They're not perfect. They're not dark. They're just, what do I want to say? Not obscure, but just the indication that they're there. Just like that. Of course, they're going to fade a little bit when they're fired too, so it doesn't make, big difference. I don't know that I'd put one over here, but you can, right over there. And so this is what we do. And dot around here. And it sets off those centers. It doesn't look as boring. I think it looks pretty cool. Do you have to have them? Nope. What would it look like without them? After you've done them for a while, it's going to look bare. So I'd suggest you do them. And there you go. That painting's done. And it's ready to fire. You can sign yours. I don't know if I'll sign this or not. But what I did want to do was give you a couple hints about your scrolling. And I think you're going to scroll with your raised paint or your raised base for raised gold. I don't know if you've ever contemplated or ever done any scrolling with paint. There are scrolling brushes. I don't have one out. I'm going to use this thin brush. But whenever you do your scrolls, start out here and make a definite, my arm just slipped, a definite C coming around. Make sure your next scroll is coming close or up to this one, and make sure it goes the opposite direction. If you have to turn your piece around to make that happen, that would be great. If you don't get them close enough, let me turn this so that you can see this. Let's say that you start out here and you think you're getting it, you're going to get it close enough, and you come up and oops, I didn't get it close enough. That's okay. Come in here, put a couple dots in between it, or do your little cross marks. That makes it nice too. You want to add and make this a double one. Come back later and you decide to do that, just put another little C in there. You want it even fancier than that? Turn it all the way around to the other side. Make sure I have this lined up. And come in here and put another side on it. Real fancy. do some dots. Let me get this turned around so that you can see it. Come down and start up here with a load either on your, if you're using a stylus or a brush or whatever you're using to put your dots on with the enamel, start in one point, dot, pull up, dot, pull up, dot, pull up. You'll notice this is more with your enamel if you dot and pull up. See how they're getting smaller? It's because you have less material in your brush, so they are going to get smaller. But you can do, you have two about the same length here and a little shorter one here. This one doesn't have to be short. You can bring him in here. You can bring him right off the back of this guy. You can bring it around and make him longer again. Let's make him a little fancier. And it's just, I'm having trouble getting this so that you can see it. I can actually paint him a little bit better, but it's just a practice thing. You can have a lot of fun doing these. We can make a cartouche here. Do you know what a cartouche is? It's, I don't know, it's French, I know that. I don't remember exactly what it means, but it is something to do with, you're making an enclosure. So we're going to enclose this area. And we're doing it again by they're going in the opposite directions. And then I might get down here, and this is when you can break the rules a little bit. You can do it this way, which I'm going to do. And then you can do another one like here to close it. Or you could have done one around like this. And then if you're doing the cartouche, generally they look nice if you do something like the lines across it. Like this. Of course, the closer together your lines are, I'm finding out that I shouldn't have done that, the more that it takes. And then we want to do this one on an angle across them. And then you can really go insane, Anne, and you can come in here and you can pick every other one of these and put dots in them. That makes it look nice. But that's the way you do it with brush. You can do the same thing with your enamel. Just make sure that you're keeping it stiff enough. You want it to just, and I do mean just, be able to get it on there and make a tail out of it. If you've got enough that you think you could make another swipe with, then it's too thin. So play with it, practice it with it. If it is a water-based one, I'll guarantee you that you can take and play with it, let it dry, take it off, put some water to it, and just a tad, just barely a drop, and reconstitute it. But just play with it and have a good time. Since you are doing it with the enamel, I won't tell you what I had intended to show you, because when you said that you were doing that, I just immediately assumed that you were going to paint a border. Let's say that this was the edge of your box and you had your design in here, that maybe you were going to come in here and do some scrolling in like this. What I was going to suggest, if you want to do something like that, come in here and brush some color around and get it fired. Smooth this out. I mean, I would probably do something like paint or whatever to mark where I wanted to come to. And it can actually be almost like a border, but you want to make sure that when you're making a border like that you're going to scroll around, that this gets brushed real thin on the edge, and you don't want it. See, I've got it going out of what would be, I'm kind of out here and out into here and out there. So then you want to make sure that you come back in here somehow and define where your edge is going to be, get rid of this excess. And then you want to blot your brush really well, probably even clean it, and then do a little bit of oil. And after you have this, let me see if I can, and I bet you I'm out of the screen. I am. I took and I wiped the edge along here, but you don't want that harsh line, so I have it wiped back that I did with the cleaning tool. And then come back in here and get this brushed out, but brush back into where you were, get this smoothed, and do the finger pat. Fire it so that when you're doing your scrolls, if you're going to come in here, you get a good brush, that if you wanted to come back in to do scrolls now, and it's wet, if you mess up, you're going to mess up everything. But if you do that and you fire it and then come back in here and do scrolls along it, if you don't like the way it's going, you can wipe that off, or one piece or two pieces, and see, even though here's my edge along here, I come back in here, and you can make this come around, and there's actually a little bit of paint right out there. I can see it from here, but I don't think once it would be fired, anybody else would be able to see it. But that's a way of doing it that way. So I hope that I've helped you today, and I'm anxious to see what you've done. So go and paint, and just email me and let me know if you have any questions, okay? Thanks, Ann.